Lilith in Aries. Lilith in the birth chart represents the dark feminine in all of us. Each person has both masculine and feminine energy within them. In this series, we're going to be talking about the dark feminine, where the moon in the birth chart is our feminine, receptive, nurturing side. Black Moon Lilith is really looking at the dark side of the moon and examines feminine energy turned inside out. Feminine energy sort of turned upside on its head in a way. Now, I focus mostly on Black Moon Lilith. There are actually 4 different types of Lilith, but I'll be going through Black Moon Lilith through all of the signs. I will insert a video right now going over how you can look up Black Moon Lilith in your own birth chart using astro.com. You're going to have to input H13 into the asteroids when customizing your birth chart. This is how you can look up different asteroids, different points in your own birth chart that is not the default on all birth charts. So you can follow the steps provided as I'm showing it right now. So Black Moon Lilith is ultimately a very repressed energy. It is the side of us that we are most afraid of, but it's actually our most authentic self. Our raw, unfiltered side of us that just does not give up. So it's very much true to who we really are inside, without any inhibitions, without any thought or filtering through society's acceptable standards. But because not everybody is very comfortable with showing that side of themselves, Black Moon Lilith is most of the time very repressed, and it's sort of this side of us that we shut down or we put aside, that we are ashamed of. It's sort of the side of us that is very scary, very untamed, just really wild, and it can be a really powerful force for change and desire. Now, we either have the power or the ability to embrace Black Moon Lilith or shut it down. And whether we do one thing or another depends on the aspects to Lilith. A strongly prominent Lilith in the birth chart, such as conjunct the sun, conjunct the ascendant or the angles, or the personal or any of the personal planets, can show somebody who is very much on the surface about who their most authentic self is, and it can indicate a personality that is just very much unafraid of being wild and untamed and free-flowing with whatever planet's expression it is that Black Moon Lilith is touching. However, if we have an aspect to Black Moon Lilith that is difficult, such as, like, say, a square from Saturn, that can indicate somebody who is very much afraid of their authentic self and will try really hard to repress it or to shut it down, to just be somebody who is very much ashamed of their dark feminine. In a female's chart, Lilith can indicate the unique woman inside that she is shamed for. It can also hint towards her sexuality, her untamed, wild sexuality, and how that comes across. It is the woman inside of her that does not play by anyone's rules but her own. In a male chart, Lilith can indicate the woman that he fears but secretly desires, the woman that he wants to tame but will secretly allow her to control him. And again, you can see whether or not he will give up that power to her by looking at the aspects to Lilith in the male chart. It is the woman who can dominate him, and it also shows his attitude towards strong women, whether he celebrates the independent and strong woman or fears her and therefore tries to control her. There is a sexual tone to Black Moon Lilith's interpretation, her symbology being the dark feminine. Black Moon Lilith takes the role of the feminine and turns it into a much more active, dynamic role, rather than being receptive and passive, which is all about, like, the moon's energies. Black Moon Lilith takes a much more active role in creation, in getting what it wants, and instead of waiting for other people to come to them and take direction from other people, Black Moon Lilith is a lot more direct and passionate. So it does cover and touch upon one's sexuality and sexual nature. You know, if you want to dive deep into your Lilith placement or deep into what Lilith really means and signifies in astrology, you can't be looking for the pretty side of things. You're definitely going to have to face some ugly things about yourself, okay? And just about your Lilith placement. This is not Venus. The types of things that Lilith represents in the chart are really, like I've mentioned, you at your worst, and it's up to each person whether they want to face that genuinely and honestly or not. And that, that's just one of the things of Lilith. Just, are you ready to examine your authentic self? Are you ready to face the darker truths about who you could be, or the side of you that you don't necessarily want to look at? You cannot be afraid of that if you want to study and research your Lilith. So with Lilith and Aries, one of the 7 deadly sins that I would assign to Lilith and Aries would probably have to be wrath. At your worst, you can be a very rageful person, somebody who at their core can have a very much angry personality. This is if Lilith goes unchecked, if there is sort of an excess amount of Lilith in the chart, or if it's just on the unevolved side. So at your worst, Lilith and Aries, you can be a bully. You can be a steamroller, somebody who just pushes and pushes and pushes until they get their way, and really all the not so pretty parts of the Aries archetype. Things can get a little bit crazy when your desires are not in check, when your true motivations and desires for getting what you want are ultimately selfish. They're not at the consideration of other people, or even when they come at the expense of other people. There's a lot of wild abandon with this placement, just when it comes to your desires, when it comes to your impulses and your emotions and your instincts. This is the placement of the independent thinker, the pioneer, and the person who goes out of their way to be the leader and to be the first person to do things, only to have other people shame them for it and to put them down for it, for acting foolishly, or being like this reckless, foolish person who doesn't really think before acting or speaking. Lilith in Aries is very much reckless. Because there is so much passion behind every move, every word, every emotion, every impulse and motivation, you can be afraid of the strength behind all of that raw emotion and desires. You can be afraid of what it pushes you to do, and just all of the crazy, intense, and untamed strength that you can get from it. You might be somebody who is afraid of standing up for yourself and just being too strong, appearing too forward and too passionate, because those are qualities that you were shamed for, that when you were expressing your true authentic self, allowing your Lilith to shine, other people didn't really understand it. Other people may have tried to control it or make you feel like it was just too much. They would say things like, you're coming on too strong, or you're just too much for me, or like, that's inappropriate, you need to carry yourself with more grace, or they basically tried to control how aggressive you were. So perhaps as a result, you may have repressed your strength and your independence and your bravery to just say things as they are, to be unashamedly honest and raw with what you thought, or what you stood for, what you were passionate about. So yeah, you may have been shamed for your leadership, for your bravery, and for just doing things as you went along with it, doing things as you wanted to do them and not as other people wanted you to do them, because basically you just did what you want and you followed your impulses, your desires, and your passions, and you really showed off that passionate nature inside of you. Now, speaking more towards the sexual side of Black Moon Lilith, the sexual nature is definitely very passionate, just very raw. It has an animal instinct to it, literally and figuratively. It comes on very strong. It is a very desirous placement that comes across very clear in your sexual relationships. It is very forward and just goes after what it wants. The sexual nature here also with Lilith and Aries is just very strong and fast and hard, and it can burn out quickly because the flames kind of like start up really quickly and then it fizzles out just as quickly. So Lilith and Aries sexuality it just burns very bright and fast and intensely. So if you have Lilith in Aries, make sure you comment below and let me know your thoughts on this placement. What do you think of it? And if I have missed any information on this placement, please add to the discussion by commenting. Please give this video a thumbs up too if you found it helpful or informative in any way. And if you are new here, my name is Melissa, your local Capricorn moon. I make videos especially geared for beginners, and if that sounds like you, please hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you can be informed every time that it is that I post. I post twice a week, so be sure to stick around for the new astrology content that is coming your way. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for being here, for subscribing, for watching this video. I really appreciate you being here and doing that. So I'll see you again soon for the next video.